The silent threat. The stars were going dark. Not in the natural way, not the slow death of aged suns or the violent collapse of supernovas. These stars simply ceased to exist, as if they had never been there at all. The phenomenon defied every known law of physics, and it was spreading. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of the ESS Horizon, watching the void where the Proxima Centauri system had been just hours ago. 23 billion sentient beings had called that system home. Now there was nothing but empty space and the lingering echo of quantum degradation. Admiral. Her XO's voice came through the neural link. The Galactic Assembly is requesting an emergency conference. Again. Chen didn't turn from the viewport. They've spent the last century treating us like primitive savages, Marcus. Now they want our help. To be fair, ma'am, we did accidentally blow up one of their sacred moons during first contact. That was an honest mistake. How were we supposed to know their religious artifacts would react that way to rock music? The memory almost brought a smile to her face. Almost. The situation was too grave for nostalgia. Humanity had spent the decades since first contact being largely ignored by the more advanced species of the Galactic Assembly. Earth and its colonies were classified as a developmental anomaly, a species that had achieved faster than light travel before developing the proper psychological and spiritual advancement. But now, something was eating the universe, and humanity's primitive nature might be exactly what was needed. Put them through, Chen ordered, straightening her uniform. The air before her shimmered, and the holographic forms of the Assembly Council materialized. Their alien features were diverse, from the crystalline structures of the Enxitheri to the gaseous swirls of the Void Dancers, but they all shared the same expression of barely concealed desperation. High Speaker Zixtal, a being of pure energy contained within an ornic mechanical shell, spoke first. Admiral Chen. The situation has become untenable. The entity has consumed 3 more systems since our last communication. I'm aware, Chen replied coolly. We lost contact with our Proxima colonies 8 hours ago. Then you understand why we must set aside our differences. Your species' unique approach to problem solving may be our only hope. Chen raised an eyebrow. You mean our violence, our unpredictability, our tendency to shoot first and ask questions later. Your adaptability, Zixtal corrected diplomatically. Your species evolved on a world that should have killed you 1,000 times over. You survived ice ages, asteroids, your own nuclear weapons. You developed faster than light travel using particles you barely understood, while other races spent millennia perfecting their spiritual connection to the universe first. And now something is eating that universe, Chen finished. Something that doesn't follow your rules of spiritual enlightenment or proper evolutionary development. Precisely. Our sensors can barely detect the entity. It exists in a quantum state that should be impossible, consuming matter and energy at the fundamental level. Our weapons pass through it. Our shields mean nothing. We need a primitive perspective, Chen suggested. The High Speaker's energy form flickered, their equivalent of a resigned sigh. Yes. Chen finally turned from the viewport, facing the assembled holograms fully. I'll need complete access to your technical databases. No more restricted sections, no more spiritual prerequisites. If we're going to fight this thing, we need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. Granted, Zixtal said without hesitation. But you should know, we've already lost contact with the Arcturus sector. The entity's rate of consumption is accelerating. How long? At current progression, 2 standard months before it reaches Earth, perhaps 3 before it consumes the entire galaxy. Chen's neural link buzzed with incoming data as the Assembly's databases were open to human access. Already, her mind was racing with possibilities. Humans had spent their entire existence fighting things they didn't understand, surviving when survival seemed impossible. Well then, she said, a grim smile forming on her face, we better get started, because if there's one thing humans are good at, it's turning impossible situations into improbable victories. As the holograms faded, Chen opened a channel to Earth Command. This is Admiral Chen. Implementation of Protocol Omega Black is now in effect. Message follows. The darkness is hungry, and humanity just got recruited as the galaxy's exterminators. Time to show them why they should have been more afraid of us than what's out there in the dark. Breaking protocol. The Assembly's grand archives were a disappointment. Dr. CkYeah Patel had expected ancient wisdom, revolutionary physics, or at least a coherent theory about the entity. Instead, she found the digital equivalent of philosophical poems about quantum harmonics. They really don't understand how any of this works, do they? She muttered, swiping through another useless treatise on spiritual resonance with the cosmic flow. Her lab aboard the ESS Horizon was cluttered with holographic displays, each showing different aspects of the entity's consumption pattern. The Galactic Assembly had spent millennia developing technology through meditation and spiritual connection to the universe. Humanity had done it through trial and error, mostly error. Dr. Patel, the ship's AI announced, Admiral Chen requests your presence in the war room. The Assembly representatives are agitated. CkYeah snorted. When aren't they? The war room was tense when she arrived. Admiral Chen stood at the center of a holographic storm of data, while the ethereal forms of the Assembly Council flickered with obvious distress. You can't be serious, High Speaker Zixtal was saying. The risks are better than certain annihilation, Chen interrupted. Dr. Patel, explain your findings. CkYeah stepped forward, pulling up her data with a gesture. The entity isn't eating reality, she said. It's converting it. The quantum signature suggests it's transforming normal spacetime into something else, something that operates on different physical laws. We know this, another council member, a crystalline being named Angsthar, chimed in. Our most enlightened scholars have spent weeks contemplating the metaphysical implications. We don't need metaphysics, CkYeah cut in. We need weapons, and I think I know how to make them. The assembled aliens fell silent. CkYeah continued, your technology is incredible, but you treat it like magic. You understand the what but not the how. We've been analyzing your quantum drives, and we think we can modify them to generate a destructive resonance with the entity's conversion field. Modify our sacred drives. Zixtal's energy form crackled with alarm. Those designs were gifted to us by the cosmic consciousness itself. No, CkYeah said firmly. They were discovered through trial and error by your ancestors, who then wrapped them in layers of mysticism. We're going to unwrap them, hack them, and turn them into something that can fight back. This is blasphemy. This is survival. Chen stepped in. Dr. Patel's team has already successfully modified one of our own quantum drives. The test results are promising. CkYeah brought up the data from their experiments. We can generate a field that disrupts the entity's conversion process. It's not perfect, but it's a start. With access to your more advanced drives, we could create a weapon that could actually hurt this thing. The council members conferred in their own language, their forms shifting with agitation. Finally, Zixtal spoke. What you propose goes against every tenet of our beliefs. These drives are sacred artifacts, meant to connect us to the universal consciousness. And we're going to use them to save that consciousness, Chen replied. You asked for our help. This is how humans help. We take things apart, understand them, and turn them into solutions. Sometimes messy solutions, but they work. The entity has consumed another system while we've been debating. CkYeah added, pointing to a real-time map of the galaxy. At this rate, we have maybe 6 weeks before it reaches the core worlds. How many more billions need to die before you're willing to break protocol? The silence that followed was deafening. Then, slowly, Zixtal's form stabilized into a more resolved state. Very well, but we insist on having our own observers present during the modifications. Agreed, Chen said quickly, before they could add more conditions. Dr. Patel, how many drives do you need? CkYeah did some quick calculations. To generate a field large enough to affect the entity, At least 1,000. 1,000 sacred drives. Anxthar's crystalline form vibrated with shock. Impossible. We have over 10,000 in storage, Zixtal admitted reluctantly, preserved for future generations of enlightened beings. Well, Chen said with a grim smile, those future generations won't exist if we don't do this. Dr. Patel, gather your team. You have 3 weeks to turn these sacred relics into the biggest gun humanity has ever built. As the council members flickered out of existence, Maya was already drawing up modification plans. She caught Chen's eye and saw her own determination reflected there. Think it'll work? The Admiral asked quietly. No idea, Maya admitted. But that's never stopped us before, has it? That's what they don't understand about humans, Chen mused. We don't need certainty. We just need a chance. The human factor. The modified quantum drive hummed with an unsettling discord as Maya made the final adjustments. Around her, the assembly observers watched with a mixture of horror and fascination as she deliberately misaligned the sacred geometries of their ancient technology. Neural connection established, she announced, her augmented consciousness merging with the drive's control systems. Beginning test sequence alpha. The massive chamber aboard the ESS Horizon housed hundreds of modified drives, each one a blasphemy against the assembly's beliefs. But they were running out of time. The entity had accelerated its consumption, devouring entire sectors in days rather than weeks. Energy signature is stable, her assistant, Dr. James Chen, reported. Quantum resonance at 60% and climbing. The assembly observers' forms flickered with distress as the drives began to pulse with an otherworldly light. This wasn't the gentle, harmonious glow they were accustomed to. This was raw, aggressive, and distinctly human in its application. Resonance at 80%, James called out. Field coherence holding steady. Maya's consciousness danced through the neural interface, feeling the quantum fields twist and writhe under her control. The assembly had spent millennia learning to commune with these drives. Humanity had spent 3 weeks learning to weaponize them. Test firing in 3, 2. The chamber erupted in light as the modified drive array activated. A beam of concentrated quantum disruption lanced out into space, its effect visible even to normal human eyes as it distorted the fabric of reality itself. Direct hit on the test mass, James confirmed. Complete quantum dissolution of the target. It worked, Maya. It actually worked. But Maya was already moving to the next phase. Begin production scaling. We need all 1,000 drives modified and integrated into the weapon system within 72 hours. Impossible, one of the assembly observers, a being of pure crystalline thought, protested. Such modifications require careful spiritual alignment and... We don't have time for spiritual alignment, Maya snapped. The entity just consumed the Pleiades cluster. 8 billion more lives, gone in an instant. We do this fast, or we don't do it at all. Admiral Chen's holographic form materialized in the chamber. Dr. Patel, the assembly fleet has arrived with the remaining drives. But we have another problem. The entity has changed course. Maya's blood ran cold. Where? It's heading directly for Sol. New estimate puts it at Earth's doorstep in less than a week. The chamber erupted in chaos as the assembly observers processed this news. Their worst fear had been realized. The entity had sensed their weapons test firing and was now moving to eliminate the threat. How many drives are combat ready? Chen demanded. Maya checked the status board. 312. Maybe enough for one solid shot, but we'd need to be practically on top of the entity to guarantee an effect. Then that's what we'll do. Chen's expression was grim but determined. We'll take the fight to it. The assembly fleet will provide escort, but the Horizon will have to get close enough to fire the weapon directly into the entity's core. That's suicide, James protested. The quantum dissolution field would tear apart anything that close. Then we better make sure we hit it on the first try, Maya said, her fingers already flying over the control interfaces. I'm going to need direct neural connection to all the drives simultaneously. No automated systems. We'll need human intuition to target this thing effectively. The neural load would kill you, Chen warned. Maybe. But if we fail, we're all dead anyway. Maya turned to the assembly observers. Your technology, our methods. This is why you came to us, isn't it? Because humans are willing to do the impossible, to take risks that no sane species would consider. The crystalline observer's form resonated with what might have been respect. We sought your help because you are different. Perhaps that difference is precisely what the universe needs. Damn right it is, Chen said. Begin evacuation of all non-essential personnel. Dr. Patel, you have 48 hours to get this weapon ready for combat. The entity thinks it can intimidate us by threatening Earth. Time to show it why humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Maya's neural link buzzed with activity as she began reconfiguring the weapon array. Around her, human technicians and assembly observers worked together with newfound urgency. The mystical and the practical, the spiritual and the scientific, merged into something entirely new. Something that might just save the galaxy. Desperate measures. The void where Earth's moon should have been told them they were already too late. The entity had accelerated beyond all predictions, consuming Luna as a warning of what was to come. Maya's consciousness was spread across 300 quantum drives, her augmented mind struggling to contain the vast energy they channeled. Through the neural link, she felt every fluctuation, every surge of power as the ESS horizon pushed its engines beyond safe limits. Entity will be in weapons range in 3 minutes, James reported, his voice distant through the haze of quantum connections flooding her consciousness. Hull integrity at 60% and falling. We won't survive another pass. The assembly fleet surrounded them in a defensive sphere, their ships looking like delicate sculptures compared to the brutal functionality of the horizon. They had already lost 30 vessels to the entity's quantum dissolution field, each one disappearing into nothingness with their crews. Earth's orbital defenses are engaging. Admiral Chen's voice cut through Maya's quantum-induced fog. No effect. All civilian ships are launching, but they won't all make it out in time. Maya forced her attention to the targeting systems. The weapon was ready, humming with enough power to tear a hole in reality itself. But the entity was massive now, a void in space that denied the laws of physics themselves. They would have only one shot. 2 minutes to range. Entity is reacting to our approach. Quantum dissolution field intensifying. Through the ship's sensors, Maya watched Earth's orbital stations begin to vanish, consumed by the advancing darkness. 8 billion people on the planet below, and they couldn't save them all. The evacuation ships were streaming away from the planet, but they were so few, so small against the scale of what they faced. 1 minute, hull integrity at 40%. Drive containment failing. Maya felt blood trickling from her nose, the neural load threatening to overwhelm her augmented brain. The quantum drives weren't meant to be used this way, weren't meant to channel this much destructive power. The assembly observers had warned her that this level of connection would kill her. Entity is targeting us directly. 30 seconds. Maya. Admiral Chen's voice was soft now. Whatever happens, humanity will remember this stand. Through the quantum interface, Maya could see the entity clearly now. It wasn't just consuming reality, it was rewriting it, turning normal space into something alien and incomprehensible. And at its core, she saw something that the assembly's spiritual sensors had missed, something that only a human mind, pushed to its limits and augmented beyond safety, could perceive. A pattern. A weakness. I see it, she whispered, blood now flowing from her ears. James, purge all safety protocols. Direct neural connection to all drives. That'll kill you instantly. Already dead, she managed through gritted teeth. Just make it count. The final safeguards fell away. Maya's consciousness exploded across the quantum network, her mind becoming one with the weaponized drives. In that moment of transcendence, she understood what the assembly had spent millennia trying to achieve through meditation and spiritual enlightenment. She saw the underlying structure of reality itself, and she knew exactly where to strike. The Horizon's weapon fired, 300 quantum drives screaming in discord as they poured their energy through Maya's dying mind. The beam struck the entity's core, and for a moment, reality itself seemed to hold its breath. Then the void began to scream. Maya felt the entity's structure begin to unravel, felt it try to rewrite itself, to adapt as it had adapted to every other weapon used against it. But this was different. This wasn't elegant assembly technology or brute human force. This was both, merged through human desperation and determination, guided by a consciousness that burnt itself out to achieve one perfect shot. The void collapsed in on itself, reality rushing back to fill the space it had consumed. The moon reappeared, then the orbital stations, then everything else the entity had consumed in the Sol system. Its quantum structure hadn't just been destroyed, it had been reversed. On the bridge of the horizon, James watched in awe as space itself reassembled, the entity's victims restored as if they had never been taken. But in the weapon chamber, Maya's body was already cold, her mind burnt out by the power she had channeled. She had died human, died fighting, died saving not just Earth, but every world the entity had consumed. The assembly would never understand their weapons or their quantum drives the same way again. They would, however, finally understand humans. Legacy of Stars. 1 year after the entity's defeat, the Galactic Assembly gathered at Earth, not in their usual distant orbital stations, but on the planet's surface. They came in environmental suits and containment fields, braving the world they had once deemed too dangerous to visit. Admiral Chen stood at the podium in the United Earth Conference Center, facing representatives from every spacefaring race in the known galaxy. The memorial behind her bore the names of those lost in the battle, with Dr. Maya Patel's name carved in the center. 1 year ago, Chen began, we faced extinction. Not just humanity, but all sapient life. The assembly came to us not because they wanted to, but because they had to. Because sometimes survival requires something more than wisdom. Sometimes it requires the willingness to break every rule, challenge every assumption, and sacrifice everything for a chance at victory. The crystalline forms of the Enxitheri chimed in harmony, a sign of respect. The energy beings of the High Council pulsed with colors that human eyes could barely perceive. Even the mysterious void dancers had emerged from their quantum refuges to attend. Dr. Patel's sacrifice saved not just Earth, but every world the entity had consumed. Her modifications to the quantum drives have revolutionized our understanding of reality itself. But more importantly, they've revolutionized our understanding of each other. The Assembly's new High Speaker, a being of pure light named Ixal, floated forward. Humanity's classification has been permanently revised. You are no longer considered a developmental anomaly, but rather a vital part of the galactic community. Your unique perspectives have proven invaluable. Unique, Chen smiled. That's a diplomatic way of saying we're crazy enough to try the impossible. Perhaps Ixal's form sparkled with what might have been amusement. But we have learned that the impossible becomes possible when viewed from a different perspective. The entity taught us that our way is not the only way. That spirituality and science, wisdom and warfare, can coexist and complement each other. Chen gestured to the newly established Quantum Integration Academy behind the memorial, where human scientists worked alongside assembly mystics. We're learning from each other now. Your spiritual understanding of the quantum realm combined with our practical approach to problem solving. Together, we're developing technologies that neither of us could have created alone. And defenses, Ixal added, against threats we cannot yet imagine. The entity may not have been unique. There may be other dangers lurking in the dark between stars. Let them come, Chen said, her voice carrying across the assembled representatives. Because next time, we won't face them as separate species with separate philosophies. We'll face them together, with every tool and technique at our disposal. The elegant and the crude, the spiritual and the practical, the peaceful and the violent. All of it necessary, all of it vital. The memorial's quantum core pulsed, projecting an image of Maya Patil into the sky above Earth, not as she died, but as she lived. Brilliant, determined, unafraid to challenge both human and alien assumptions about what was possible. "We are not the species you expected us to be," Chen concluded. "We're violent when we need to be, peaceful when we can be, and always, always willing to burn ourselves out for a cause we believe in." That terrified you once. Now it gives you hope, because the galaxy needs its warriors as much as its philosophers, its scientists as much as its mystics, its humans as much as its enlightened beings. As the assembly erupted in a chorus of alien appreciation, from crystalline chimes to quantum harmonics to pure light displays, Chen looked up at Maya's image, the scientist who had died to prove that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their determination or even their willingness to sacrifice. It was their ability to take the impossible and make it real, to break every rule in pursuit of survival, to merge the practical and mystical into something entirely new, to be exactly what the galaxy needed, precisely when it needed it most. The stars shone brighter that night, as if in acknowledgement of the species that had died to keep them burning.